Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 660. My name is Zach.
And my name is James.
We're here to talk about movies and movie obsession and movie lists for an hour or so. James, how does that sound to you?
It sounds awesome.
Doesn't it? It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Today's a double feature.
Yeah. We watched 2 movies.
Yeah. 2 movies. And we're going to talk about both of them.
It's like a record. That's like a record for you. 2 movies in 1 week.
That is a modern day record. That's a contemporary record for sure. We're going to beat that record next week with 3 movies.
I know. We're really laying it on thick. How are you going to find time for 3 movies this week?
I shan't.
You just stay up real late.
Yeah.
A couple nights.
Exactly. The worst movie marathon ever.
Sure. It'd be helpful if we picked some kids movies so you could at least like watch them with the kids. And stuff.
Well, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We're only doing Christmas movies for Pizza Movie Night this month.
Okay.
So I think we're going to do Polar Express this week.
Okay.
We've never seen that before.
You've never seen Polar Express?
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
Spoiler alert, I don't like that movie.
Yeah, I suspected that I wouldn't.
You've heard of the Uncanny Valley?
Mm-hmm.
That movie, more than any other movie, gives me Uncanny Valley vibes
Creepy.
while I watch
Creepy.
it. Like all the characters that you're supposed to care about, the little kids, the Tom Hanks person, their eyes are so soulless that I just watch it and I'm thinking, this is supposed to make me feel Christmas vibes. And all I can think about is like, it's too close to real, but not close enough to like get over the hump.
Sure.
Gives me Final Fantasy vibes. Did you see that movie when it came out?
No.
That one was bad too. I don't know why. I can like play a video game where the characters look kind of realistic. It doesn't matter if they have weird eyes. But the moment you try to put me in a movie for like 2 hours with those types of visuals, and I'm out.
Has anyone made a 30 seconds of video that is computer animated that of a human where you can't tell?
Well, if that happened, I wouldn't know about it.
Well, you could know. It could say like, hey, this is 100% animated. You know what I mean? I'm not saying someone trying to like pull a fast one on you. I'm just saying, does 30 seconds exist anywhere on the internet of a human being that is completely animated but looks real?
On the internet, or like, can it be in a movie or a TV show?
Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm just asking.
Just in the history of recorded media.
Yes. Have we ever accomplished this yet?
I bet there is, because I guarantee there's moments in Marvel movies that have 100% CG characters, and I don't know it. Like I feel like I assume it happens at times, and there's sometimes, especially in action scenes, where it's very obvious. But I bet there's other scenes where they've done it and we just did not catch it.
Yeah, but it's always going to be in those action scenes. I want just someone, drinking a cup of coffee and talking to me. You know what I mean?
Right. But Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
Since Iron Man 2, I think it is, Iron Man doesn't even wear a suit. Like the entire suit is CG through the whole movie.
Yeah, but that's going in the opposite direction of what I'm talking about. We're trying to say replicate a human. Yes, you can replicate a robot and make me believe it.
Sure.
I want to see the human Tony Stark, not Iron Man.
I'm just saying they haven't fooled us, knowing we don't know whether they fooled us, but as far as we know, they haven't fooled us with a human face, but they have fooled us with just about everything else. They can do an entire movie and nobody will notice with what the guy's wearing through the whole movie.
No, I completely get this, but the problem with the Uncanny Valley that we've already discussed is in the eyes, right? So the face is what I'm actually caring about.
Yeah, the eyes and like the mouth, just like not 100% being the way vocals match lips.
Okay, so I'm taking from this, you are not aware of, like, there's not a 30-second clip. You're like, oh no, they've done this. Let me send it to you. Nothing you can think of where they've actually passed the Turing test when it comes to 30 seconds of video.
100% generated, not like deep fakes.
Exactly, yeah.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Do you think You've seen one?
No, I don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
think they've done it yet. But if you're listening and you know of 30-second clip, email it to the show or drop it in the Discord. I would love to see this. I feel like we're really close if we're not doing it already.
Right. But if they send you a clip, you're going to know, and then you won't be fooled.
The trick is not to be fooled. It's to like watch it and intellectually realize that I would not be able to tell that that's fake.
Okay. But going into it knowing that it's fake, then you're lying to yourself.
What do you mean?
Like you wouldn't you would already have a frame of reference for it being fake. The only true test is that you come across this on your own. You watch it, and then down the line, even if it's like 5 minutes down the line, you find out it was fake. And then you're like, oh, I did not detect that.
That would be a great double blind way to do this.
Sure.
But I have certainly seen CGI of like a forest, and I know it's fake because it's a part of a speech about this fake forest they made.
Mhm.
And I can intellectually be like, yep, that looks totally real. They did it. Good job. You know what I mean? So I'm fine doing that same thing with a human face.
Yeah, that's different than a human face, though. We've just been talking about forest is different than a human face.
Well, I'm just saying.
I think the moment you know it's fake, even if your brain says, I wouldn't have known that, it's not a true test unless you go in it blind.
We've done it with photos. I've seen photos of human faces that are not real, computer generated, and I'm like, well, they look real. That's good enough.
Right. But I'm saying it's not 100% pure as far as tests go. It's the best we got, unless you come across something on your own and then find out later. It's the best test we've got, but it's still not 100% pure test compared to seeing something, believing it, and then finding out on your own.
I just want, it's a higher bar. It's a higher bar.
Sure.
Because I'll have a little skepticism, but
it's like a 95% test.
Yeah, send it. I want to know if we've done it.
All right. I mean,
maybe we've done it for like 4 seconds, but I want to see 30 seconds.
I want to see the best version of that too, but I don't want to know about it.
Okay. People are just going to send you random video clips of like news reporters.
Sure. And then I'll be like, oh, maybe that was fake. I'll start getting paranoid, thinking everything is fake.
Yeah.
Like a true Trump supporter. All right. What are we talking about this week?
Bring politics into everything, James.
Everything. I haven't said that man's name since the election happened. So,
well, it's not a true test until I hear everything you've said since the election.
Sure.
What are we doing today, James?
What are we doing today? We're gonna review 2 new movies.
Yeah. And because it was 2 movies, we couldn't have 3 hosts because that would just not work.
Right. Yeah. We're a 1 movie per host podcast.
Yes, for sure.
Everybody knows this about us.
If there's one thing you know.
Speaking of podcast and derailing us yet again, do you remember the Countdown podcast? This was a podcast that in the early days of our podcast, they heard us do a top 10 last 10. They were the first ones to reach out to us and be like, hey, we like your podcast. We love this one format you do. Can we rip it off? And we were like, not only can you rip it off, you can name it the same thing. We don't care. We just love that you love it. Go for it. That podcast is now 10 years old. And they're closing up shop.
Are they? They're shuttering?
They literally picked a date and they're doing a countdown to their last episode.
Wow.
Because they're the Countdown podcast.
That's really funny.
Right. But doesn't that kind of blow your mind that podcast is 10 years old and they're wrapping it up and we're not?
Wait, hold on. They said on their website, here it is, the final top 10 last 10.
Sure.
But that's not true. The top 10 last 10 will live on.
The last one they're doing.
Yeah, they say that too.
Yeah.
Also, I just top 10 last 10. Anyways. Well, that's
what it's called, the top 10 last 10. Let's not get into this again.
We got to have them on the show.
One of them's been on. Paul's been on.
I think when I was not on the show.
Yeah, that was like one of the times you were traveling for like a month, and I had like a bunch of guest stars. This was pre-Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. It was kind of a bad one. Like in retrospect, listening to it back, it was
a
me.
bad episode.
It was a me problem, not a him problem for sure. No, the episode was fine. It was Black Panther.
Okay.
I think I was pretty activated over Black Panther, like the politics surrounding Black Panther.
Were there politics surrounding Black Panther?
Yeah, at the time.
What were the politics?
For sure. Let's not get into it.
Okay.
The point is, I think I was trying to
activated.
get, well, this was years ago. This was 2016. I don't remember when Black Panther came out. And I think
2018, February
2018. That's 6 years ago, Zach. I don't remember what happened 6 years ago. But I do remember this. I remember listening to it back a couple years later and thinking, man, I really put Paul in the corner on this episode. Like I was asking him about things that as an Australian, he probably wasn't real comfortable answering. And he didn't. He dodged it every time I tried to bring it to that.
Nice.
Like a real pro. So I'm sure he doesn't remember that or care. But if he's listening to this, I apologize, Paul, for putting you in the corner when we talked about Black Panther in 2018.
People don't know this, but James always apologizes if he hurts someone, but he always waits 6 years. That's his.
That's what I do.
That's his personal rule.
If anybody knows anything about me or this podcast, it's that I apologize 6 years later, and we can only have one host per movie. Which is why we have 2 movies this week.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're going to talk Conclave and Juror number 2. Conclave you've probably heard about, but Juror number 2 I think is a little under the radar for sure.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, it barely came out in theaters and they just kind of quietly dropped it on whatever streaming service it's on. HBO Max, I think. I mean, Juror number 2 is, we'll get into it. Jeez.
It's a Clint Eastwood movie.
Hey, we'll get into it.
Spoiler alert.
I know. So yeah, we're going to talk those movies. No list this week. You'll have to wait for next week on that. Well, not even next week, because next week we are doing our annual Christmas movie special. But tell them what we do every year for that, Zach.
Every year, like clockwork, we pick a Christmas movie each. Although every year we do it differently. We used to pick like 4 movies.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I think we did our top 10. We had 10 Christmas movies one year.
Okay.
When Kyle joined the show, we did 3 movies. Each of us pick a movie. And this year we're doing that again. So it's each of us picked a Christmas movie that none of us have seen. We're all going to watch them. We're all going to review them, and we're going to rank them.
Nice.
Both by how much we like them and how Christmassy they are.
Yeah. I love it. One of my favorite episodes of the year.
Great. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
The movies we're going to watch this year are Nativity from 2009.
Exclamation point.
Right. Nativity, exclamation point. You're right. This is, I'm not going to give you the plot, but I will tell you that Martin Freeman's in it and it has pretty good ratings on Letterboxd. So we will see how that one plays out. You could catch up with that one if you have an Apple TV subscription, or you can find it video on demand somewhere. We're also going to watch Trapped in Paradise from 1995. This movie is like a heist caper starring Nicolas Cage, John Lovett, and Dana Carvey. You can watch that right now for free on Tubi with commercials. And then the last movie we're going to watch is your pick, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence from 1983. And
with David Bowie.
You're right.
Yeah.
Starring David Bowie, and it takes place in Japan, I think.
Yeah, in a POW camp.
Right. And you can find that on the Criterion channel if you have that as a streaming service, or on video on demand. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. So if you're going to watch next week and you want to watch all 3 of those, or maybe one of them, whatever, and have it watched in advance for our discussion, those are the 3. I'll put them in the notes of this episode as well, so you can just check those out at your own convenience. We are going to get going right after I tell you there's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go check it out. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com. Get extra after show audio. Leave us an Apple Podcast review, 5 stars only, or send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelists.com, and we will discuss your email on a future episode. You can find links to do all those things in the description of this episode. Are you ready to talk Conclave, Zach?
Yes. Conclave.
Let's do it right after this clip.
Father Bellini.
Aldo.
Am I the last one?
Not quite. How are you?
Oh, well, you know, fairly dreadful. Have you seen the papers? Apparently it's already decided it's to be me.
And I happen to agree with them.
What if I don't want it? No sane man would want the papacy.
Some of our colleagues seem to want it.
That was Conclave, a 2024 mystery thriller directed by Edward Berger and starring Ray Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, Sergio Castellitto, and Isabella Rossellini, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Conclave is: when Cardinal Lawrence is tasked with leading one of the world's most secretive and ancient events, selecting a new pope, he finds himself at the center of a conspiracy that could shake the very foundation of the Catholic Church. Zach, what did you think of Conclave?
Okay, well, first of all, let me say, I am, there's micro genres that people tend to like and not like.
Sure.
Like you're really into found footage horror movies. Is that correct?
I mean, it is correct that at one time I was, but I have not seen a found footage horror movie in 6 years, and they're still releasing them.
Okay.
I'm just not watching them.
Okay.
So
You
I
got
don't know if
oversaturated.
I don't know if I'm still into them or not.
Okay. Well, traditionally you were. Maybe now
I
you've
am.
soured on them.
Yeah. I haven't
Um,
soured. I think I was taking a break.
If you know one thing about me, you know that I just happen to be a huge fan of the behind the scenes machinations of the lives of popes.
Papal politics.
Papal politics and intrigue. I'm all about.
Zach, I don't know much about you, but I do know that.
Yeah, you do know that. Remember the two popes that came out a while back?
Two popes.
Yeah,
Of course I do.
I loved that movie.
I've never forgotten about that movie.
That movie was great. You don't remember anything about that movie.
I
But that
don't
movie was
remember
great.
anything about that movie, but
Yeah.
I do remember liking that movie.
Exactly. Because you're friends with me. And if there's one thing you know.
It's
So
that-
this movie is 100% the intrigue and behind the scenes look at the lives of popes.
Mhm.
It is great. I really enjoyed this movie quite a bit. It's very much like you're in the inner circle as they're picking a new pope, and you're locked into the secret, cardinal conclave as they have to vote over and over and over until they pick a pope.
Mhm.
And all the machinations of people vying to become the next pope, and but you got to look like you don't want to be pope, all that kind of stuff. It's great.
Okay, so you liked it.
I did like it. Yes.
Okay. I liked it. I didn't have a problem with it. The one part that didn't get me was the papal politics.
What
didn't-
else was there besides
I
the
didn't
papal
get
politics?
Oh, the visuals on this are
Oh.
amazing.
Would you say sumptuous?
Yeah, I mean, I don't clearly sumptuous. Clearly they didn't film, in the Vatican, but they found things that looked as grand as I think the Vatican looks like. For sure. The costuming was, I don't know if it's perfectly accurate to real life, but it looked pretty impeccable to me. And not only are they doing it for one person, but you've got all the cardinals on screen.
Yeah.
And they're all flawlessly dressed. And I'm sure that's a version of what happens in real life, but just the effort to do it's like I don't know. It's a war film, but instead of wearing uniforms, they're wearing what a cardinal would wear.
Yeah.
But the visual of them all wearing these very specific looks and then having them all on the screen. There's one shot overhead, probably shot from a drone, where all the cardinals are walking and
With
you're
the
just
umbrellas.
seeing the white umbrellas, and then you're seeing their red robes popping out from under the umbrellas. I was like, that might be the visual of the year for me.
It was a good shot. It was like a migration of birds, but it's cardinals.
Yeah.
Oh, cardinals. Hey.
Anytime you got more than two cardinals on screen, I was in. The
you
more,
love
the better.
multiple cardinals. Yes,
If you know anything about me, it's that I love multiple cardinals.
Multiple cardinals. Yeah. There was a couple scenes with only one cardinal. Those probably fell flat for you.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have a problem with the acting. I think it was just like not sumptuous enough for me.
You thought the acting was not sumptuous enough because the visuals were so
The visuals were
sumptuous.
so delicious
Yeah. They were.
that I was not
And then
blown
Stanley
away.
Tucci just has an American accent and you feel like he should have.
I didn't even notice. Should he not have an American accent?
No, he's American.
Right. Okay.
But it just wasn't sumptuous to you.
It had nothing to do with the accent or the acting. It had to do with the plotting, I guess, or maybe the mood I was in. It just none of it like really intrigued me to the point that like Two Popes did. And Two Popes, from my bad memory of it, I don't even remember what the plot was, but I remember being way into the plot and like the visuals were secondary. This was like complete opposite for me, despite the fact that they're very similar vibes for sure.
You know, before the show, we were saying like, hey, don't spoil this. And you're like, oh, I didn't even remember that happened. Or you'll have to remind me what happened. And like, literally, it was just the plot of the film. So I could tell you were not connecting with the plot.
So wait, Two Popes is about the same thing?
No. Two
Right.
popes is an outgoing and an incoming pope.
Right. Whereas this is about all the machinations of getting
voting for a new pope. Yeah.
Right. Which I loosely knew the rules of and like the procedure and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see it kind of play out.
I kind of enjoy the pomp of it, the pomp and circumstance.
Yeah. The other thought I had was like, at one point, I saw some statistic that if you took the wealth of the Vatican, you could like feed every starving child on the planet for like 300 years or something like that. There's some insane statistic where it's like if the church just gave up the Vatican, they could like solve child hunger for generations, basically. And so seeing this movie visually represent the Vatican, like within 5 minutes of the movie, I remembered that. I didn't remember the specifics of that statistic, but I remembered that. And I was like, oh, I kind of don't like any of these guys because they should be solving child hunger if they actually believe what they claim they believe.
Now, I'm looking at some statistics right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's estimated that perhaps they have around assets in the 5 to 10 billion range.
Sure.
5 to 10 billion, which is a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about like the richest individuals in this country have like 150 billion.
Oh, I don't like them either.
Right.
I think they're ridiculous too.
There were about 750 million people worldwide that faced undernourishment last year.
Okay.
So 750,000 people. So I think if you gave all of them, maybe I'm going to do some rough math here and say $1,500, you would exhaust the Vatican's money. And I think for
$1,500 a person?
Yeah, a person.
Okay.
And I think for the vast majority of these people, $1,500 would probably feed them for a long, long time.
Depends on where you're at, right? Here in the US, it wouldn't last very long. But in the other countries, it would last a long time, $1,500.
There just aren't the numbers of people in this country that don't have access to food are way less than in like, you know, the poor places in the world. So
for sure.
I think probably what you're saying is fairly accurate.
I wish I could remember what the statistic was, but doesn't matter. So yeah, I was a little distracted off the
You were thinking about that.
Well, like that's in one corner of my brain, and the other corner is like, this set looks amazing. Like whatever whatever their location supervisor is or location scout, like pay them double because this is selling me that this is the actual Vatican.
Do you know what your favorite shot of the movie was them walking with the umbrellas?
Mm-hmm.
Mine was they're in. I think it's literally the Sistine Chapel.
Okay.
They're in the Sistine Chapel. in like chairs, all in a big, square looking at each other.
Mhm.
And there's a couple people that get votes, right? Like there's maybe 6 people that all got votes.
Mhm.
And this is like a big deal, right? They might be voted pope kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And they're all in their head about it. And even though it's a room of like 109 people, it shows each person in an empty room. Like they're the only person in their chair in the shot.
Mhm.
That was cool. Those were cool shots.
Yeah, so they removed everybody from the
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
Just to give you the feeling of like,
Because none of those people matter in that moment. All that matters are the 6 people that could become pope.
all right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was good. Like I said, anytime they were doing that kind of stuff in a big room with a bunch of people, I was sold. But when they were in a back room and it was like Ray Fiennes and
Stanley,
what's his name? It's Stanley, and also the guy from
Lithgow,
30 Rock or Third Rock from the
John
Sun,
Lithgow.
John Lithgow. Anytime that they were just jawing back and forth in a back room, I was kind of like, didn't they just say this in the last scene? Like they just kept having the same discussions over and over, and I was like, okay, just let's go.
Yeah,
move it on.
Another thing I liked is that all the cardinals would just casually switch languages when they're talking to each other.
I like that
because
too.
they're all like incredibly educated people that work in a global, organization. And so they'll speak Italian and Latin and English and Spanish just willy-nilly.
Sure. And they all know Latin too. So
yeah,
that was a common thread. I liked the speech made by what's his name? You said his name.
Fiennes.
No, I'm forgetting. Was that
Lithgow?
No, Fiennes.
Fiennes.
The one where he's talking about
we want a pope that doubts.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Just because I feel similarly to that guy about religion. We've talked about this off podcast.
You want a pope that doubts.
I want religious leaders who doubt. And I don't say it as eloquently as he does in this movie, but that's exactly why I like the idea of religious leaders that don't think they know everything. You know what I mean?
There you go. You should memorize his speech and then every now and then stand up and deliver it.
Give it Independence Day style.
Yeah.
To the congregation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. Just take over the congregation and
try it.
What else to say about this movie? We haven't talked specifics because there's going to be a spoiler section to this review. So
yeah, and this is certainly a movie you could spoil.
Yes.
Maybe not for James. He could care less, but were you at all invested in like who was going to become Pope?
Also like the ending that we're not going to get into, but kind of out of nowhere.
Certainly out of nowhere. It became a message movie, right?
Right.
Yeah. I did not realize it was going to be a message movie, but yes, it did become that.
Sure. I mean, it had other messages too that we'll get into in spoilers, but
yeah.
But it didn't touch on that message until right at the end. And then I was like, oh, okay. Do you think maybe we save this for spoilers? I don't. Do you think
we can easily save this for spoilers?
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know what I was going to ask?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you knew me.
Well,
you know a couple things about me. We've already established that on this episode.
You formerly liked found footage horror. No, I assumed what you were going to ask was, do you think that what happened in the movie would actually happen?
Yes, a variation on that question, but that's the gist. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do know you somewhat. That's maybe the third thing I know about you.
Is that
and we'll talk about
you know about me somewhat?
We'll talk about it on spoilers.
Okay. Let's talk about the acting real quick. What'd you think? There were a couple people on screen that I had not seen in quite a bit, I would say.
Yeah. So Ray Fiennes was just constantly concerned and conflicted and quiet, and it worked. He was great. Stanley Tucci, I just like Stanley Tucci. He's an enjoyable person to me.
Okay.
And I thought he was good. John Lithgow was fine. He could have been replaced by all sorts of people and they would have been fine.
Yes.
I don't really take him seriously.
John Lithgow, I saw just today I saw Interstellar in the movie theaters because
Okay.
they re-released it.
Okay. Is
And
he in that?
John Lithgow's in Interstellar.
I did not know that.
Yes. I'm pretty
Does
sure.
he play Matt Damon?
No. I'm pretty sure that was John Lithgow. Now I'm doubting myself. Where's the cast?
That's really funny.
I have to know this. Yeah, John Lithgow. He's Matthew McConaughey's father-in-law. You know the other thing I forgot about? Interstellar, which has nothing to do with Conclave other than John Lithgow's connection. I forgot Matthew McConaughey was in Interstellar.
What?
He's like the lead actor.
James, that's the wrong thing to forget about.
I mean, is it? Because Interstellar's already like middle to lower tier Nolan for me. Like the visuals still amazing. Sound design, amazing. And Matthew McConaughey was going through his like McConaissance, period during that. Like True Detective, this, and Dallas Buyers Club were like 3 bang, bang, bang that people were like, oh, he's back and better than ever. He really acts in Interstellar. Maybe you might even say overacts.
When I think of Interstellar, the first scene that I think of is him crying watching the video of his daughter.
Yes, that's one of the scenes where he's maybe going a little over the top.
I famously don't love that movie because of how dumb it can be.
Yes.
Like the fourth dimension being love. What is that?
Yes.
A scientist saying that.
There's like a couple weird, like, I don't know, hippy dippy things going on in that movie, which is weird for like a Nolan movie. Not that he's above fantasy or something like that, but it just seems like he normally grounds things as much as he can. Yeah. I mean, he made a Batman movies that like probably could happen type of thing. But anyway, back to Conclave. John Lithgow. Doesn't he also play the father in the Planet of the Apes reboot series? Like in the first movie, when Caesar's like an actual ape before he like turns into
he may.
Ape? Isn't that John Lithgow?
That could be a thing that happens.
So is he just? I mean, I guess in Conclave he's not playing somebody's daddy, but in the other ones,
the Italian cardinal, the conservative one that like none of them wanted to become pope.
Yeah,
he was played by Sergio Castellitto, and for half the movie I thought that was John Turturro.
Okay, why?
Because they look similar.
All right. If you say so.
You don't think it looked like John Turturro?
I can't really visualize. I have face blindness, Zach. If you know anything about me,
I
you know I have face blindness.
Oh, I am aware you have face. I try not to bring it up, James. I try not to bring it up. Can I send you 2 pictures? One with John Turturro and one with...
100% you can send me 2 pictures.
Okay, and one of them will be computer animated, and I'm not going to tell you which one.
Okay. Confirmed is the father in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. John Lithgow.
Confirmation has been achieved.
My bias has been confirmed. All right. The other thing I didn't like about this movie, it's mostly dudes. I mean, come on, can we get some women in there voting? What is this?
With the Catholic Church? Come on.
They don't have female priests at all?
No, not
nowhere?
No.
Man, they gotta get with the times.
That's what the whole movie's about, James.
I know.
Yeah, so no female priests anywhere in the Catholic Church. That's what you get with like the central authority.
Sure.
Okay, I'm sending you both. You don't have to tell me that they look the same. You just have to tell me, okay.
What if I do think they look the same?
Then you can tell me that. I'm saying you don't have to. I just want acknowledgement that they roughly are in the same genre of person.
Okay, you put it in Discord.
Yeah.
They're like carbon copies of each other, and I am not joking. I understand why you would make that mistake.
Okay.
Maybe you picked the perfect photos here, but yeah, I could see it.
Okay, thank you.
That's kind of wild, actually. I want to see them both smiling, like the one on the left. I don't even know who's who, to be honest.
I'll show you a picture of the guy from Conclave, right? He's like gristled, like with like, you know, stubble, and he's older and that kind of thing. So that's why I didn't send you a Conclave photo.
Mm-hmm.
But I also was like, maybe that's John Turturro with a little bit of beard going on.
Oh, that guy looks nothing like John Turturro.
Yeah, but picture the same guy, right?
Sure.
Just picture John Turturro with a little stubble.
Maybe. He has a wider face. I almost said another word, but he has a wider face than John Turturro does in Conclave. It might be the beard, might be the styling of the hair.
Could be the beard.
Could be no, he's got circle glasses on in both the shots that you've sent me that nobody can see but us. Maybe I'll put it on screen in the video. So if you're not watching the YouTube video, you know, there's a reason to.
Here's a John Turturro with some stubble.
It's not the same kind of stubble though.
No, it's not. Well, because they for whatever reason chose not to have the same beard. I can't speak to that.
I don't know. You should talk to the what would you call him? The stylist that worked on these movies?
On multiple, multiple movies. Okay, enough about that.
So
did you like the movie?
Overall, I thought the acting was fine. The plot was, other than the twist at the end, a little repetitive. Maybe.
Did you care who became Pope? Like, were you invested in that or no?
No, I really did not care.
Didn't matter to you.
Also, like, we'll discuss it in spoilers, but it's kind of like that comes out of nowhere too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I called that. I called that from the very beginning.
You called it from the very beginning?
Yes.
Not the very end, but
yeah, obviously not the very end.
Right.
I wonder if is there foreshadowing to that.
But the results of the vote, you mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I wish like Isabella Rossellini had like some kind of premonition or something about this person.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Then you could have worked the ladies in a little more.
Well, she got her speech at least. You wanted her to get elected Pope.
Give the nuns some agency. Jeez, give them a vote.
James, welcome to the Catholic Church.
I know. I'm glad I'm not there.
The women are not cardinals.
Sure.
And famously not the Pope.
They don't have to be cardinals. Just give them a vote.
My dad used to say there was a female Pope. The one stuck in there.
Really? He thought one of the previous popes was actually female?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. My dad would say that from time to time.
Interesting. You think he was serious when he said this, or
there's a legend about a pope named Pope Joan from like the 10th century.
Okay. So it wasn't a secret woman. It just was a woman at one point, and then they never did it again.
Well, no. She was secretly a woman the whole time.
But her name was Pope Joan?
No, she disguised herself as a man.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. But this like historically has not been proven?
Yeah, it's a myth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they know who all the popes were.
So it historically not only hasn't been proven, it's historically been debunked.
Yeah. I mean, they have a list of who's pope. It's not like a mystery who was a pope 1,000 years ago.
I don't know. I mean,
it's all written down.
I read a lot of Dan Brown books. Catholic Church be doing lots of weird stuff. You
do not read a lot of Dan Brown books.
I've read all the Dan Brown books.
You have not read all the Dan Brown books.
I
have not.
I have.
All right. How does Digital Fortress end?
I don't remember. I don't remember how Conclave ends. And I watched it last night. I don't remember Matthew McConaughey was in Interstellar.
That's true. I'm looking at, there are
Digital Fortress. That's the one about the Halcyon Collider or something like that. That's like underground, right?
Yeah.
See, I know the book.
There's 25 Dan Brown books, and you've read them all.
I haven't read all of them, but I've read up to when he stopped doing the ones with Tom Hanks in them.
All right, well, that's on you. That's on you.
What are those books? Robert Langston?
The Da Vinci Codes.
What was the name of the character though? Robert
Langston.
See, would I have known that
Langdon.
Langdon. Dang it.
Would you have
I got
known
it
that?
wrong.
Yes, you would have. All right.
I would have if I hadn't read the books.
You could possibly have known that without having read Dan Brown's entire bookography.
I would have remembered the name of the main character when I didn't even remember Matthew McConaughey was in.
You didn't even hear me.
Interstellar.
You didn't hear what I said.
I did hear. You said I would have remembered it even if I didn't read the books.
No, read his entire book catalog.
That's true. You know what? I couldn't even name you another book other than Digital Fortress because you reminded me of that one.
Yeah.
I
I wanted to know the ending because I didn't finish it. I got like 4/5 of the way through.
Oh, you didn't like it?
I did like it a lot. But I had to return it to the library, and I'm hoping you would have told me the ending.
I don't remember the ending.
Okay.
He's probably my favorite author, which
Really?
probably makes me like
Yeah, he's not a great
really
author.
like a plebeian. Is that what they call him? Plebeian.
Yeah. I don't think you're gonna be a cardinal, James.
I don't plan on it. I think that ship has sailed at this point, which is kind of a theme for the movie.
Oh, would you be disgraced by one of the methods that the various popes
Yeah,
were?
I would. I would
Okay.
not be allowed to be pope according to this movie. Maybe that's why I don't like it.
Oh. No, you could be pope, man.
No, there's a
Yes.
guy. We'll talk about it in spoilers, but there's
He was already Catholic at that point.
What?
You just had to become Catholic.
Oh, so if you become Catholic, then all your previous quote unquote sins
Yeah, well, they
go
just,
away. But if you do it
you-
while you're Catholic, you're never forgiven for it by the other popes or the other cardinals, rather.
People talk.
Hmm.
People
I don't think I'm getting elected, Zach.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's probably true.
They're gonna find out
You'd be too distracted by the
That-
architecture.
I like the substance or something, and they'll be like, no, nobody who likes that movie can be pope. You know what I mean? They find any reason to make somebody not pope.
We're going to talk about it during Juror number 2, but Juror
Mhm.
number 2 has a higher rating on Rotten Tomatoes than the substance.
Okay.
Just
We'll
letting
get
you
into
know.
that. Well,
Yeah.
I bring it back up when we get into jury
I will.
number 2
I will.
because I have an opinion on that for sure.
Okay.
Anything else spoiler free on the conclave?
We'll talk spoilers. I enjoyed the papal intrigue.
Okay.
And this movie really, really makes me want the exact same movie,
Mhm.
but like set 1,000 years ago.
Oh, okay. So like back in the day, the
Yeah,
cardinals
we
back
gotta-
then.
We got to vote on, Gregory the Eighth died.
Mhm.
We got to pick a new pope, and it's medieval Europe. That's what I want to see.
I mean, wouldn't it look very similar?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, hopefully it looks awesome.
Oh,
right?
just without some of the topics that come up.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Without being so contemporary, I want it to be just super medieval.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I'd watch that. I'd watch more papal intrigue movies for sure. This one didn't spoil me on that. And again, I really liked the visuals and the acting. Some of the plot didn't hook me. Like Two Popes is mostly two guys talking through the
Yes.
whole movie. It's just
Yeah.
a series of discussions. It has way less flash from a visual perspective, and yet I would rank that above this.
Okay.
Would you?
The music was good too.
Would you rank Two Popes above Conclave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There you have it. If you know one thing about Zach, it's that he would rank Two Popes over Conclave.
It's true.
Um,
Out of necessity.
You have to.
What do you think I gave Two Popes?
I think you gave Two Popes 4.5 stars.
That's right, James. You know me so well.
What do you think I gave Two Popes?
I think you gave Two Popes 4 stars.
I think I gave it 4.5, but I have no clue. We'll find out right now. Two Popes. The Two Popes. I apologize.
Yeah.
I gave it a 3.5. I was way off. Ooh, it's a Fernando Mireles movie.
You didn't like Two Popes as much as I thought.
Oh, I got to give it a half-star bump. It's at least a 4.
City of God.
It's
Blindness.
The City of God and Blindness guy.
Yeah.
I don't have 360 marked watched. Pretty sure I watched that. All right.
He also did the 2016 Olympic opening ceremony.
Of course he did. I knew that as I was watching it. I was like, clearly this is the City of God guy.
You connected it.
Is that
All
when they
right.
were in Rio? Is that why?
Yeah.
Because he's like a Brazilian director. So
Yeah.
All right. Let's letterbox rank or rate this movie, Conclave. What are you going to give it, Zach? It's got to be less than a 4.5.
It's got to be. It's going to be 4 stars because I just really liked looking at, watching, enjoying this movie.
Even though I gave Two Popes 3.5, I was going to give this movie 3.5.
Yeah.
But I clearly like Two Popes better. In my faulty memory, I like Two Popes better. Which is why I'm bumping up Two Popes and I'm giving this one a 3.5.
Sure. Yeah. Can we all just say, like, wouldn't it be fun if more movies looked this good?
It looked amazing.
Yeah.
The production design on this one was immaculate.
Immaculate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like if this movie is going to win an award, as it stands right now, I want it to be for costuming. I can't think of anything else that even comes close.
Or production design, maybe.
Sure. I'll take that too. But anything, cinematography, I'd even take. I can't think of another movie like from a cinematography perspective that would be in the running that would be close to this that I've seen so far.
Nice. High praise.
All right. A 4 and a 4.5 and a 4.
No, I gave it a 4.
2 4s? We liked it the same amount? That's not possible.
What did you give it?
I gave it a 3.5. You're right.
I gave it a 4.
It's not the same number. A 3.5 and a 4.
There's one thing you know about James.
It's that I know the difference between a 3.5 and a 4.
2 numbers, yeah. He could say if the number is the same or not. It's amazing.
Yep.
I don't know how you do it.
I don't know either. A 4 and a 3.5 for Conclave. Now we're going to talk another new release movie. This one is called Juror #2. We're going to get into it right after.
No, it's not a hashtag.
It's a hashtag.
No, it's not a hashtag.
It's a pound sign.
It's a pound
whatever.
sign.
It's a pound sign. You're right.
Yeah.
It's a pound sign. Juror #2 right after this clip.
You got this case all wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a hit and run.
No way. Emmy would have flagged it.
Well, yeah, you'd think. Like I did 5 autopsies that day. One day. I checked.
Doesn't mean anything.
Let me just ask you one thing. Did you guys ever look at any other suspect?
We did our job.
All due respect, counselor, if you'd have done your job, I don't think we'd be standing here right now.
Well, that guy is bad news.
Maybe. But he didn't kill that girl.
That was Juror #2, a 2024 American legal thriller directed by Clint Eastwood, starring Nicholas Hoult, Toni Collette, J.K. Simmons, Chris Messina, Zoe Deutsch, Cedric Yarbrough, and Kiefer Sutherland. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Juror #2 is: while serving as a juror in a high-profile murder trial, a family man finds himself struggling with a serious moral dilemma, one he could use to sway the jury verdict and potentially convict or free the wrong killer.
Yes. This is also spoilable.
Right. So we'll be doing a spoiler version of this as well. What did you think of Juror #2? Or do you want me to go first on this one? I don't care.
Desperately.
Okay. What was that movie last year that was like a foreign film? It got nominated for like Best Picture. It was about like a woman did she or didn't she push her husband off like the second floor balcony? Remember what was the name of that movie?
That movie, I don't remember the name of.
That movie was awesome, and it was a courtroom drama. And all I was thinking about while I watched this movie was that movie and how great it was. And how this one felt very behind the times, maybe, is how I'm feeling about Juror number 2.
Anatomy of a Fall.
Anatomy of a Fall was like an interesting spin on a legal thriller.
Yeah.
This one definitely has a spin on like other movies that you've seen that contain a legal battle, or are focused on that. But like the style of filmmaking, I mean, it was made by a guy who's 93, who's been making movies his entire life. And it's pretty clear that Clint Eastwood is just a guy that shoots words on a page.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he did, there are no visual flourishes in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's just telling the story as plainly as it was written. And I'm not saying that's not enough for me. It's just in a world where the one that you looked up for me exists.
Anatomy of a Fall.
It was hard for me to get real excited about this. Plus, Nicholas Hoult, who I didn't previously have an issue with, was just such a blank slate in this movie. I was just like, what are we doing here? I mean, I don't know. Another one that I did not dislike or like hate watch or anything like that. I wanted to see it through to the end. I was kind of intrigued to see how things would end up. Is just very plainly told, both on the paper and visually. So I didn't have a whole lot to keep me intrigued other than the actual plotting. And then the ending that we'll get into in spoilers, didn't feel like much of an ending.
Okay. Sure.
How did you feel about it?
This movie was corny.
Okay, that's a better word. I could have summed up my entire description with the word corny. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was corny. Like there's some interesting ideas there. Like the central conceit of the film, which we're not talking about, we'll talk about in spoilers, is an interesting ethical dilemma that it doesn't really explore because it has to be so internal for the character. You can't talk about it with anyone, pretty much. But every way that it was executed just felt kind of like hammy because you know that none of these things work the way that they're happening in the movie. You know, like people just like at one point they asked like, hey, can we go to the crime scene? And the judge was like, I'll allow it. Let's go. And they take a big field trip to the crime scene and look around. And it's just like, yeah, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean?
Well, if it was going to happen, it would happen during the trial.
Yeah, for sure. Not during deliberation.
They do that during the trial. Trial.
Yeah. But again, it's
not deliberation.
It's handled so differently.
Yeah.
There's just, and there's characters will like not have anything to say for a bit, and so you'll see them like pull out their phone and just kind of look at their phone until their lines come back again. It's just very much like a guy who's directing it is perfunctory at that point, and he doesn't really care about the details. And I think that fits with what Clint Eastwood is known for, in his new era of, he's comfortable with non-actors, just say what's on the page and let's not worry about, being cinematic in a way. I do like jury films. Like 12 Angry Men is a 5 out of 5 movie, right?
Absolutely.
That's an amazing movie.
It's top 100 movie for me.
I really liked Runaway Jury with John Cusack. That was a fun one.
Don't remember the details of that one, but
he purposely tries to get on a jury in order to influence it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's a lot flashier kind of film.
Sure. Isn't that a like John McTiernan movie or somebody like that? I'm pretty sure.
Runaway Jury is directed by Gary Fleder.
Not who I was thinking of.
You famously have not seen My Cousin Vinny.
You're right.
But that is maybe my favorite trial movie, but it's not really about a jury at all.
And it's a comedy. It's different.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the acting is pretty like, Hallmark level, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Hallmark
it's-
level. I mean, Nicholas Hoult, I can kind of agree with that. But the rest of
what
the
about his
people in the
wife?
movie,
His wife? So schmaltzy.
she didn't have much to do.
That's true.
And also, I have problems with her too that will definitely require spoilers.
Okay. I'm excited to hear
So
those.
we will.
But
talk
otherwise,
about it.
it's fine. I mean, it's fine. It's super watchable.
I mean, Toni
more
Collette's
just-
kind of acting her butt off though in this.
Well,
movie.
she's always acting her butt off.
I know, but almost to the extent though that it feels like her and Nicholas Hoult are in totally separate movies. You know what I mean? They're like, she's like trying to win
I
an
don't know
Oscar.
if he's really
and-
like the leading man, like hold the films.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have even second guessed it until after this movie, and now I kind of feel the same. I'm just kind of like, I don't know, maybe you need to be in like X-Men movies, right? Isn't that what he's from? The X-Men movies?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. You need to be in like ensemble action movies where you don't have to lean on your central performance or something. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
sure the guy's great. What you know, whatever. But in this, and maybe that's how he was directed to perform. But I was just like, man, I don't care about this guy at all. He's just such a blank slate.
Yeah.
They give you no reason. Well, they gave you vague reasons. Maybe that's the issue. There's multiple issues, but maybe that's one of the issues is like throughout the movie, they give you vague reasons where they want you to care about him. But I just couldn't bother because he was so unemotional about everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's how it is with most of the characters, with the exception of Toni Collette towards the end. She gets a little riled up. And the public defender I thought was good too. For what he needed to do, he did it well.
I thought his acting performance was the best in the film.
Yeah.
In that I just believed him as a character. Like he just seemed like a real person to me.
Yeah. Every time he opened his mouth, he seemed like he would be a public defender who was like trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably all we need to say about this film.
Clint Eastwood, though. The Mule. Have you seen The Mule?
No.
The Mule is so good. I wish he directed The Mule, which he starred in,
Yeah.
and then just walked away. Since then, he's made like Cry Macho and this movie. And this one, I wouldn't say is a bad movie, whereas Cry Macho, I think, is like legitimately not a good movie. This one is watchable for sure. I understand why some people enjoy it. I think it's a little, I don't know, basic.
I think he can direct himself well because he can give himself exactly what his delivery needs, you know?
Mhm.
But Nicholas Hoult is not doing that, you know?
Yeah. The Mule,
fine.
The
He-
Mule
he's
was
had a great
perfect
career.
though. It was a movie made for an old guy who was like ornery, and Clint Eastwood plays that perfectly. That's why I think he should have walked away after that one. But clearly he doesn't want to retire because he's making movies. This movie went into production when he was 93.
It's awesome.
Is it?
Yeah. Good for him.
Let's give some young blood some money to make a movie. Does Clint Eastwood
He
really
probably-
need to make a couple more movies in his 90s?
How much money did this movie cost, James?
I don't know, 8 million.
Yeah. So low.
It doesn't matter. Spend 8 million on a young filmmaker who's going to do something interesting with it. Not the guy who's
Okay.
going to make the movie for, you know what, I think this would play real well with people Clint Eastwood's age. You know what I mean? Like that's the style of movie it was to me. It was like
Yeah.
there was nothing to it.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, I actually think there's something to the plot. It's just the way the plot was told was just like there was nothing to it. There was nothing to sink your teeth into. Which kind of shocks me because this movie's getting decently good reviews online. Like both audience and critics seem to enjoy this. I'm going to be not upset, but perplexed if it gets all kinds of nominations. I think it's definitely a Clint Eastwood effect if that happens, because I don't think
Like his
this-
swan song effect, because it's his last movie, probably.
Yeah, I don't think it's his last movie though. I think he's making another one
Oh, really?
right behind this.
It has a 93% of Rotten Tomatoes and a 91% on the popcorn meter.
Right. Is this a 93, 91 movie, Zach?
No,
I don't think so either.
no.
It's insane. Insanity. People are like Eastwood blind or something while they watched it because
Yeah.
I don't get it. That being said, I didn't hate it. You ready to letterbox this?
Yeah.
I also gave this a 3.5.
James.
It's probably
Silly.
closer to a 3. I'm going to adjust right now. It's a 3.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, it's
Conclave is better
more interesting.
for sure.
Yeah.
100%. Although, in a weird way, take how good the plot was on paper of Juror #2 and shove it into the visuals of Conclave. Perfect film.
I think you were sleepy during Conclave.
I was not sleepy. I mean, it's a sleepy movie other than the visuals, right? There's not like a lot going on.
You probably watched it on a tiny little screen.
No, I watched it on the biggest screen I've ever watched at home.
I bet it did look good.
It did.
All right. So we have a 3 and a 3.
A 3 and a 3 for Juror #2. Thank you for joining us for this episode 660 of the Cinereelists. Just 6 episodes away from our most hated films episode, Zach. Are we calling it hated? You don't like that word, right?
This is so strong. Our
Most disliked?
least favorite.
Least favorite. We're going to run down our top 10 least favorite films, which we've never done in like 660 episodes.
So is 1 our most least hated or least liked?
Yeah, 1
And 10
is
is
the
our
movie we
10th.
least like the most.
Okay.
10th is the 10th least liked film.
Okay.
It'll be
That
a
makes
countdown to the one we dislike the most, which is a change because we've never counted
Never done
down by how much we dislike something.
Right. We're mostly positive.
Right. In 6 episodes, look forward to that. As far as next week's episode, you should look forward to our Christmas annual extravaganza where we're going to watch Nativity, Trapped in Paradise, and Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Nativity with the exclamation point. You can find those names in the description of this episode pre-watch, and then you can listen along as we discuss them. You could also follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and one that I'm forgetting, Facebook at Cinereelists, or you could follow me on my Twitter, Blue Sky, or Letterboxd account at EOJRB.
You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shaubin.
We'll be back next week with some Christmas movies. Stick around for spoilers for both films if you'd like. Until next week, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
This is spoilers for Conclave, which we discussed earlier in the episode. If you don't want to hear spoilers, like perhaps you haven't seen the movie and you plan on seeing it. Or maybe, if you don't want spoilers, you shouldn't be listening to this. If you don't care about spoilers or you've already seen the movie, this is the discussion for you, because we are going to talk about the particulars of the plot of the movie Conclave. What do we have to spoil, Zach? Should we start at the very end, the most shocking thing, or should we work up to that?
Let's build up to it.
Okay, let's build up to it. Can you give people a spoiler-filled plot synopsis with the exception of the ending?
Sure. Yeah. Let me pull up the actors just so I can talk intelligently about these people. Okay. So they're picking a new pope, right?
Right.
And so the way they do that is all the cardinals in the world get together and they're locked into this room, and they have to vote, and they have no outside connection to the outside world, so they can't communicate with the outside world, right? And if they can't get a 2/3 majority vote for someone, then they just keep voting until they do, right?
Which is the actual process that they go through. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And there's like several factions, right? So there's the conservative candidate, right? And that's played by the Stanley Tucci lookalike Sergio Castellito.
Sure. I'm sure he loves being called that.
His name in the film is Tedesco. And he wants the church to go back to the way it was like 70 years ago, right? So where Mass was in Latin, and they don't embrace homosexuals, and they would never even think about having women involved in the church, things like that. Okay. And then there's the liberal wing of the party, which is like Ralph Fiennes, who's the he plays the clerk, basically the one that like is in charge of making the votes happen. He's the guy in charge of logistics and stuff like that. There's Bellini, played by Stanley Tucci. He's like the head candidate for the liberal side, and they want to make the church more modern, more inclusive, more tolerant of different viewpoints and stuff like that.
More effective.
Sure. And then John Lithgow is kind of in the liberal wing. He's less liberal than Stanley Tucci, but he also wants to be pope. And then there's one last candidate, Adeyemi, and he is like an African cardinal, and he would like be this face of diversity and that kind of thing, right? And then one other character we need to mention is Benitez, and this is the first time that it becomes a little bit like this is where it probably doesn't actually take place, is that he's a secret cardinal, right? So he was made a cardinal by the Pope, but the Pope didn't tell anyone, right? So like no one knew that there was another cardinal. And so he shows up and says like, by the way, I'm a cardinal. Pope made me a secret cardinal. He's a cardinal of Kabul in Afghanistan. And he's like a really good guy. Like they, like he prays for everyone. It's a really like good moral prayer. You know? Okay. So they're vying for it. And then one by one, they kind of get taken out of the running because of some scandal. So Adeyemi gets taken out because it comes out that he had an affair with this nun when he was like a young priest.
And she had a baby, right?
She had a baby, yeah.
Right. So he was already a Catholic. We were talking about whether, I would be voted Pope. I mean, his situation, I didn't have a child with a nun, but
right. I think they're like,
I think that would be enough for them not to vote for me.
Yeah. If we can pick anyone, let's like not pick someone who had an affair with a nun while they're a priest.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
That makes sense.
I just think they wouldn't. I don't think they would nominate somebody Pope as it stands right now. Maybe 100 years in the future they would, but as it stands right now, if you had a child out of wedlock, you're not becoming Pope.
I think if you did it before you became Catholic, right? You could, become Catholic and then everything.
I don't think so. I think they're like,
he wasn't a Catholic.
They're like, what? We have like 100 cardinals here. Let's find one that didn't do that.
I mean,
I'm fine with it. By the way,
the first Pope rejected Jesus 3 times in a row.
Right, but that was back in the day. Nowadays is a little different.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So he's out. Okay.
Nowadays there's $5 billion at stake here.
Which again just does not sound like that much money. Like the federal budget, isn't it 6 trillion or something.
We don't need to go down this rabbit hole, but world hunger or child world hunger should be solved by now.
It
does not take a lot of money.
It's a solvable problem.
Yeah.
Anyways, then we get John Lithgow. By the way, Stanley Tucci, he's just not getting the votes for whatever reason. They're not feeling the love for.
Well,
for
because he's
Tucci.
kind of aggressive, I would say.
Yeah, he's more liberal than they're willing to go. He's like, let's make women priests. And
Not
they're
only
like, nah,
is
we
he
can't do that.
more liberal, he's just an aggressive dude. Like his
He's
character
like a
is like,
New York kind
Right.
of cardinal. Yeah.
exactly. I like no matter what he was saying, I could see him rubbing people the wrong way.
So John Lithgow then pops up as like the leading candidate. But then it comes out that he has been bribing other cardinals to vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't make you pope if you're bribing cardinals to make you pope, right?
Right.
That sounds bad. So he's out. Then it looks like Ray Fiennes is going to be, but he doesn't even believe in God anymore. He's like, not sure if I believe at all. And he definitely doesn't want to be pope because he's a good guy and he doesn't want to be a hypocrite. And he thinks, well, the pope should believe in God, right?
And he's like the guy running the process too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And he was picked by the old pope, the dead pope, to lead the process. Why do you think the dead pope picked him if he was the one that was already doubting God?
Well, because it seems like he's a legit, honest guy.
Gotcha.
The dead pope knew he is going to be the most faithful person to do this process. He's not corrupt.
Sure. Didn't we
Although
have
he
a
did
pope that
break the
resigned
rules.
recently?
No, that was in The Two Popes.
No. Didn't happen in real
No.
life?
No, that was the plot of The Two Popes.
Aren't movies is real life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, they are. Okay, so he's out. So who's going to be pope? And then Benitez, the secret cardinal, he gets elected pope. Now, I did call that in the very first vote. He got 1 vote. And I was like, oh, well, he's definitely going to be pope now. He got a vote. And then he gets an extra couple votes every vote. You know, he's working his way up.
Sure.
Plus, he's like a good guy. Like, you know, you listen to everything he has to say, and it's like, he seems like really faithful and into it. So they're like, yeah, they're going to elect him pope. And they do. Were you surprised? You didn't care at that point? What?
A pope resigned.
Did a pope resign?
The resignation of Pope Benedict, Roman numerals, took effect on 28th February 2013. Recently.
Oh, is this Radcliffe?
Pope Benedict.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
that
But what's
is.
his real name?
His real name? Let me click Pope Benedict. So this is info you couldn't get from IMDb.
Ratzinger. Joseph Ratzinger.
Right. I knew there was a pope that resigned.
He resigned. Well, you knew it, man. And yeah, so
maybe the two popes is about
is based on him. Yeah, because he kind of looks like Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
well, you raised your hand, so it's perfect. So did you care at all that Benitez got made pope or who was going to be pope?
I thought from a plot perspective it made sense because he's not necessarily a doubter, but he's not. You got the feeling that everybody else wanted to be pope because they either had an agenda, even if you agree with that agenda, or it was a self I don't know, satisfying. It was a personal interest to be pope, to be famous, to be the guy type of thing. But with him, you could clearly tell like everything they had him do in the movie was to set up the idea that like he's the purest of all of them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
So I wouldn't say I necessarily saw it coming because my brain wasn't in the mode of trying to solve the movie. But when it happened, I was not surprised.
Yeah.
I was like,
so
okay.
I thought the movie was done at that point. That was the surprise. That's what we're going to get from the movie. There's no other hanging chad left.
Yeah. But they had another one.
They did have another one. Yes. And what that was it came out to Ray Fiennes' character only that Benitez was actually intersex. So he
Right.
had gone to a clinic to get a hysterectomy and decided not to do it, and that he was an intersex instead of just male or just female.
Yep.
And no one knows it except for Ray Fiennes. And traditionally, I don't think the Catholic Church would be okay electing an intersex person to pope.
But at
so now
that
he
point,
has
they
a-
had already voted him pope.
They'd already voted him and signed the paperwork. He is pope, but they haven't announced it to the world yet. No one knows yet.
Right.
So he's got like a moral dilemma of like, what do I do? Do I not tell anyone and let this happen? Do I tell everyone before anyone finds out and we make sure we rip up the paper and no one knows? What
Mhm.
happens at this point?
And then they go to credits. We don't
Well, then-
know. Other than Benitez is not going to tell on him.
I think we're supposed to believe that Benitez does become pope and Ray Fiennes is fine with it because he looks out of a window and he sees a bunch of nuns coming out of a building and he's like, oh, this would be good for women. Like it's progressive for the church.
It's definitely progressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even get that he thought all of that. I think he was just kind of like, what are we going to do? Reverse this? Nobody knows about it but me. So,
I mean, it's definitely going to come out at some point, don't you think?
and I think, isn't there a line about something about how like this, like God wouldn't have made it happen the way it happened if he cared
It's
about
certainly
his intersexness.
it's certainly a thread through the movie that like God's a part of this process, right? And he is going to get his pope picked.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That they're not
and,
actually
like,
making the decision. It's just they have to get
They're
to
executing the will of God.
right. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And then Benitez says this thing about like, I decided not to get the operation
Mhm.
because this is how God made me, and so I'm not going to change that.
Sure.
And I think that won over Ray Fiennes' character.
Right. So now that we've got it out there, the big twist at the end of the movie, how'd you feel about it? Like politics aside, right? Not necessarily papal politics. I just mean like intersex, the gender issue, whatever. Put that aside. Did it need this little button at the end? Like it kind of comes out of nowhere. At least it did for me.
It was completely unforeshadowed as far as I know. Maybe if I watched it again, I would find things that foreshadowed it. I was not expecting it to have this second little twist.
Mm-hmm.
And it does feel tacked on at the end, I would say. But I'm not mad at it. If the movie wants to have a little card up its sleeve, it can do that.
I'm not mad at it. I just it felt like you had this movie where, like you said, you called it that this guy was going to be Pope. I didn't call it, but I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Kind of felt like whoever was writing it was like, we can't end it this way. People are going to know. They're going to know, or they're not going to be surprised, which is exactly what happened between me and you. So we got to throw one more thing at him right at the end. And not only one more thing, but have it be kind of the one thing that Catholics would kind of be upset about. You know what I mean? That they might have a, and we'll use the word intersex, but not a normal gendered male
Cisgendered,
pope.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of it's a very controversial idea that you would have a pope, that God would choose a pope like that. It's a very controversial idea amongst Catholics. And I know a lot of Catholics. I talk to them and they don't like this idea. So very controversial. Anyway,
I thought
actually,
it was an interesting moral dilemma for Ray Fiennes. No, he didn't spend too much time stewing over it, but it's an interesting question for him.
what does he care? He doesn't even believe in God anymore.
Yeah, but he deeply cares about the church.
That's true. That's true. But not enough to like be like, hey, the Pope we just elected, get him out of here.
I do have a feeling like he was very concerned when he found out.
But he very quickly, like this Benito guy, he knows what to say and when to say it. That's for sure. I mean, he went from nobody knowing about him to he's the next Pope, all using, words. Over the course of the movie.
I liked the ending just because I completely was not expecting it. And
Sure.
without being like completely out of left field, like it wasn't suddenly aliens attack or anything like that.
Mhm.
It's rare that a movie completely surprises me with another twist.
Even if that twist feels unearned, felt unearned to me. Again, we'd have to rewatch it, which I'm probably not going to do, to see if like there was some kind of clue. But I'm willing to bet there's not a lot of clues.
Yeah. I don't know what there would be, but yeah.
What do you think the chances are that they made the movie and then in editing and maybe test screening or, friends and family screenings, they got word that like the ending's kind of underwhelming, like a little predictable. And then they were like, let's go back and do one reshoot. Because it would really only take 2 or 3 guys and a couple locations, and you tack that thing on the end.
I would bet a lot of money that is not the case. I
You
think it
think
was there from the beginning.
Day one, that was in the script.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I think you're right, but also, much like the movie, if I found out I was right, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be like, okay, yep, that's what I would have done because it was predictable.
Yeah.
Or predictable to you, not surprising to me. Anything else spoilery
No.
about this? All right.
No.
Well, if you've listened to this far and you want to hear about Juror Pound 2, keep listening because we're about to spoil that right after this short break. This is spoilers for Juror Pound 2. If you have seen Juror Pound 2, then you could listen to this with no concern in the world because we're going
Also,
to
dub name.
you already know what happened in that movie. So,
It should not have been called Juror Pound 2.
right? They should have
Silly name.
They should have called it Juror Number 2. That's the most obvious name I can think of.
No, but like it does not matter that he's the second juror picked in voir dire.
That's true. If you haven't seen Juror 2, Pound 2, or you don't want to be spoiled, then don't listen to this. If you don't care about spoilers or you've seen it, listen. All right. Juror Pound 2. Can you give us a spoiler plot on this?
A guy, Jonathan Holt, is put on a jury for a murder.
Jonathan Holt.
What's his name?
Not Jonathan. Nicholas.
Okay. Jonathan Holt is put on a jury.
Chiwetel Elijah
Yes.
For a murder. A guy supposedly killed his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they're describing like the murder scene and all that kind of thing, he realizes, oh, that is the deer that I thought I hit on it when I was driving late one night in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
He's like putting the pieces together. Like, I didn't hit a deer. I hit this woman with my car, and I am the murderer, not this guy that I'm on the jury of.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't tell anyone that I did it because I'm a recovering alcoholic. I was at the bar that night, and everyone is going to assume that I was drunk driving, and I'm going to go to jail for life.
Mm-hmm.
So his goal now becomes, I need to get this guy acquitted, right? Because I don't want an innocent guy to go to jail. But I don't want to tell anyone that I did it. And so I want people to acquit him and then quietly forget this ever happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the basic plot, spoiler filled. I mean, the other spoiler would be that the guy does get convicted.
Yes. He does end up deciding to convict him.
And the other guy walks free.
No.
Yeah. He does.
Well, he walks free until the end.
Even at the end. I mean, there's an implication at the end, but there's nothing solid that says he doesn't continue to walk free.
Right. So I would say what the movie tells us is that he decides to convict the guy because it's not worth the risk to him.
Right.
Which is a pretty evil act.
Absolutely.
And then the movie, I would say, implies that a year from now he'll be in jail.
A year from now. That seems like an arbitrary date. They don't say a year from now.
No. I said a year from now so that you wouldn't quibble over the timing.
They imply that she, the prosecutor played by Toni Collette, is not going to give this. She's not going to let this go. Whatever that ends up meaning.
Well, here's what she knows. She knows that he was driving one of the very few cars that got body work on the same place that this happened at the same time.
She doesn't know that he drove there.
Well, she was told that he drove somewhere else.
Right. She hasn't been told by anybody that he drove right there.
Yes,
but
he
she's
shows up at
put
her
enough
house.
of the pieces together
Yes.
that she assumes she's being lied to about that.
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah. So she's a smart cookie, and it shows up at his house for a reason, right? Why does she show up at his house if not that she suspects that he killed her?
I agree that, like, thinking beyond where the movie ends, she's not going to give it up, and maybe she'll get a conviction out of the guy. But when the movie ends, he's still free.
That's true.
That's why I was saying he walks. There's an implication here that she's not going to let it go, but there's no guarantee that she's ever going to get a conviction out of him, especially when another guy's already been convicted by her.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that works in the American justice system.
What do you mean?
Like a prosecutor using public resources to re-prosecute a case they've already prosecuted and gotten a guilty plea. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
A prosecutor can ask a judge to throw out a sentence.
Right, but a judge isn't going to do that unless you can prove that it wasn't them. The only way she's going to be able to do that is to prove that it was him.
No. The prosecutor can present evidence to the judge saying, we think this evidence provides enough reasonable doubt that this guy that we prosecuted before didn't do it. And the judge can agree and set him free.
But when the movie ends, she doesn't have that evidence.
Right, but she's going to get it.
Maybe. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know.
It's not important. I'm just saying the movie implies that she's going to try, right?
Sure,
that she suspects.
Absolutely.
It certainly implies that she suspects that he's guilty.
Yeah. Towards the end, he, the guilty guy, essentially confesses in like third person, basically. Or like she tells him what she suspects him of. And he's like, I'm not confirming that. But if you did go down this path, she just got elected DA. So he's like, if you do go down that path, you're not going to be DA because you just convicted a guy who wasn't guilty. And so he's hoping that that's enough. Oh, and he also says, and not only that, but you're putting a family man who made a mistake away versus a guy who like left his girlfriend in the rain and was mean to her. And so he's hoping that's enough bait for her to drop it. And then when she shows up at his doorway, clearly she's more motivated. She doesn't care about the DA spot.
Here's the thing. The accidentally killing her and thinking it was a deer, that's an accident, right?
100%. Yeah.
But the intentionally convincing a jury to convict a guy so that you don't get caught for the accident is pretty bad. Because he's going to jail for life.
I agree. I think anytime anybody goes to jail for something they didn't do, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, but a lot of times it's just like everyone's has good intentions, right? Like the people putting him in jail think that he did it, and that's why they're doing it. This is a guy that knows he didn't do it and is still doing it. That's pretty bad.
Right. But also there were people on the jury who didn't necessarily know 100% that the guy didn't do it, but they were ready to convict him anyway.
All of them except for one other guy.
Right. We're like,
yeah.
He was mean to her. And most things are pointing to him. So even if you can cast doubt, we should still convict him. Which I've never been on a jury. Have you ever done jury duty?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
It was a 3-day trial.
Was it, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't as dramatic as this movie wanted to be, but was there any deliberation
Yeah, there was deliberation.
Okay. Like, and conflict where somebody actually changed their mind on something? Or was it more like, this is the direction we're going, let's review the evidence to make sure we didn't miss something?
There was a first vote and it was pretty split.
Okay.
And me and another guy felt pretty sure of what we thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel a little bit like we convinced the holdouts on the other side.
Okay.
Which kind of messed with me for a little bit because I was like, I don't want to convince anyone. You know what I mean? I want everyone to like come to the same
their own
opinion.
conclusion.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I do kind of feel like the two of us swayed some people's opinions.
Okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as you did it in good faith and used,
For sure.
logic and evidence.
Yeah,
to do it,
100%. Yeah. And obviously I went to the crime scene myself after hours and just kind of poked around.
And followed people.
Yeah.
And
just like in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of kind of movie of the week silliness in this, I would say.
And the judge is like, I'll allow it.
That was treated like it was like acclaimed picture content, even though it was like not that. It was LA. What's the TV show?
Law and Order.
It was Law and Order. It was elevated Law and Order stuff going on.
Yeah.
In fact, this kind of felt like a Law and Order plot, but like extended over 2 hours with like a prestige filmmaker behind it.
Yeah.
A 93-year-old prestige filmmaker.
You keep saying that. Is that old?
93 is old. That is really old. I can't imagine being 93.
Do you think when we're 93? So you know how
I'm not going to make it to 93.
You're not going to make it to 93? Well,
Do you plan on making it to 93? Statistically, we're not making it to 93, Zach.
It's hard to say.
Well, it's impossible.
I don't know.
It's not hard to say. It's impossible to say.
Isn't it statistically we make it to like 87? Isn't that roughly?
Do you really want to go down this road? It's going to be depressing real fast.
This won't depress me one bit, James.
It will depress me. Average lifespan, male, United States. Average lifespan, male, U.S.
74.8.
I'm seeing 77.
In 2022.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And you're looking at male and female added together.
Oh,
the average life expectancy for American men was 74.8.
74. 74 minus
74.
47. I only have 27 years left, Zach.
You should move to Japan. It's 84 there.
27 years. That's depressing.
That is a long. You should not save for retirement. You could work for 27 more
You're
years.
crazy. I'm gonna beat the average, Zach.
You are?
I have no doubt I will beat the average. What I doubt, although I found out this week I have a fatty liver. Did I tell you about that?
Oh, fatty liver disease?
Yes.
Hey, are you pre-diabetic anymore? How'd those results go?
I am. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the podcast. Now that I think about it.
This is the second spoiler section. We're deep in it. The show ended like 20 minutes ago.
I am no longer pre-diabetic, yes. But
Nice.
I found out I have fatty liver disease. And I also found out that like there's nothing you can do about it other than slow it down. And also people don't really die of fatty liver. They like get sick some other way, and then fatty liver disease puts you over the edge, essentially. Like other diseases exacerbate fatty liver disease.
Okay.
But I cut so many calories by going no sugar and like, full diabetic diet that she's like, the only way to keep this at bay is to exercise more, but you're not eating enough calories. So now I need you to up the calories just so you can burn them off exercising in order to maintain the fat in my fatty liver. I should have just not gone to the doctor.
Yeah.
Because I was fine. I only went because I'm 47 and I hadn't been to a doctor in like 20 years.
You weren't fine. You were eating poorly and not exercising.
I was fine. In
You were
my
eating
ignorance. I was fine in
Yeah.
my ignorance.
My goodness. Now you're eating better. And she's saying, well, yeah, but you're still not exercising.
I know. But I don't want to exercise. Exercising sucks.
James, if I know anything about you, it's that you love to dance. And that
I
could be
do
your
like to
exercise.
dance, just not around people.
Really? Animals?
No, by myself. My boxers.
Okay. Well, that has been our
If you know
spoiler
one
section.
thing about me, it's that I love to dance in my boxers by myself.
I do know that about you.
That's all we have to say about Juror Pound 2.
Who cares?
There's nothing else.
Who cares?
Honestly,
Would you have
that's how I
convicted the
feel
guy?
about this movie. Who cares? How do
Right.
93% of people who get paid to review movies like this? That's my question.
I think this movie is a front for the mob, honestly.
I think it's a pity party for Clint Eastwood. They're like,
Yes.
he made The Mule. That was great. We nominated that. Then he made 2 crap movies. We thought, man, he should have quit at The Mule. Then he made this passable one. Let's pretend like it's good. I think that's
not
what
good.
happened here.
It's not good. It's hammy.
It's bad. I need you to watch The Mule, Zach.
I would love to watch the
What are
Mule.
the chances you're going to watch The Mule?
It's a horse movie adjacent, so I'm in.
It's not. There's not a single horse in The Mule.
Yeah, but there's a mule, I'm assuming.
There's a man who drives drugs across the border.
Oh, he doesn't even have a mule.
He doesn't have a mule. It's not about physical real life mules.
There's not a real mule in the film. It's a
There is if
metaphorical
you're
mule.
using the term in relation to drug trafficking.
James, is there a mule or not?
There is
this
a
a horse
mule,
movie adjacent or not?
but not the animal mule.
There's a non-animal.
There's a
mule.
non-horse adjacent mule in this.
Well, what's the point, James?
I mean, there's a couple of mules, but there's one.
Are there?
There's one main mule.
What?
They're all non-horse adjacent.
Oh, okay. You got my hopes up.
I know.
Is there a donkey?
You're not going to watch it anyway. I recommend horse movies all the time. That makes no difference.
James, I love horse movies.
No, you don't. You never watch them.
Are you kidding me?
Name the last horse movie you watched.
I would love to do that, James, but our time is short.
Okay. All right. Hopefully you got something out of listening to the spoiler version of Juror Pound 2. I don't know how much we talked about it, but that's our spoiler version of it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.